Hello everyone and welcome to Wheel Footy, the least and most weekly wheelchair football series on YouTube. Probably. Apologies for the lateness on this one. I missed a few periods of play in my stats notes last week, so I just wanted to watch the play over again and make sure I got everything right. Unfortunately, there were some issues with SANFL Now, technical glitches, so I couldn't do that until Thursday morning. So anyway, let's kick it off. The SANFL had a bye, 2 weeks ago now, so I decided not to do an episode there. So let's do a league roundup from that week from other leagues. We'll start with Queensland, where positions 2 through 4 were theoretically in flux, but in actuality 2nd and 3rd both had 2 games, one each being against Morningside. The other game? Well, 2nd placed Ormeau had a side that hadn't won all season in Beenleigh and a percentage advantage besides. After Morningside had a comfy win over that 3rd place Mount Gravatt side, Ormeau sealed 2nd against the Beenleigh outfit that only shipped 7 goals in encouraging signs. Mount Gravatt then secured 3rd with an easy win over Redcliffe, and Morningside finished out an unbeaten home and away season against Ormeau. Here's the table, and Morningside will have Ormeau in the first preliminary final, the winner going all the way through to the granny, and the loser taking on the winner of Mount Gravatt and Redcliffe, all happening next week, or I suppose the dates are up there, as this week was a pre-finals bye. I say this week actually being last week. This is confusing. As for the goal-kicking race, well, it gives me great pleasure to announce that Michael Dobby Bridges, Morningside player and actual watcher of this series, currently leads Ormeau's Paul Letters by 2, thanks to twin 5-goal hauls. Fellow Morningsider Josh Boyle sits 3rd after a goose egg in Game 1 of Round 7, but 7 in the final hit-out with daylight to the rest. It's still tight between these 3 though, so it all depends on finals matchups. My prediction is it's going to be one of the Morningside boys, just because I think they'll win the grand final comfortably. The VWFL had its Round 8 fixtures at the State Hockey and Netball Centre in Parkville. Wonderful facility, that. The Hawks rolled things off and got their first win of the season, and despite not having a single bench player, it was a fairly handy 31-point margin by game's end. Richmond then faced Collingwood in what promised to be an entertaining matchup, but sadly it under-delivered. The Magpies mirroring their AFL selves that week by only scoring a single goal to half-time. Richmond were already 63 points up, and while the Pies played better in the second, the gap was extended to 68 by the final siren. Chris Consantis continued his insane goal-kicking form, nailing 11 to move into a 21-goal lead in league standings. In scary signs for the league, his teammate Angelo Mavroudis scored 7, moving into 2nd place outright over St Kilda's Ryan Smith, the Saints having the bye that week. The Saints' grip on 2nd actually tightened as a result of them not playing, with Collingwood's percentage getting obliterated, while the Hawks moved to only being percentage behind Essendon, even though the percentage gap is 30. Essendon and Collingwood kicked off the penultimate round of the regular season the week after, so that will be last week when this video comes out. There we go, finally getting my head around it. This one was a regional round held in the outskirts of Geelong, and this first game was a beauty. Collingwood were without leading goal kicker Sam Moraldo, but still squeaked an early lead, the margin 5 at quarter time. Anthony Perito then put on 2 goals to open the second, giving the Maggies a 17-point lead. Caleb Logan was having none of that. Already having scored Essendon's 3 goals to this point, he scored 4 of the next 5 to give Essendon a slim lead at half-time. The third term was a goal-for-goal affair, the margin only slipping above 8 right at the end of the term when Logan closed it out by hitting the 10-goal mark for the first time this year, although he did kick 20 in a game last year, which is ridiculous. His 11th kicked off the 4th and gave the Dons a round 3-goal lead. But the Maggies scored 4 of the next 5, 3 through Ben Jankowski, to gap the Bombers by 7. Logan's 12th, with 3 minutes left, cut the gap to 1, and the Bombers regained control from there. Logan managed 13 with a minute left, which gave the Dons the lead, with Hayden Farley coming off the pine to grab the sealer right at the death. I haven't seen the match personally, but by all accounts, it was a great advertisement for the VWFL. The lowly Hawks got Yassine Hill back this week, but it didn't look like mattering early. Hill's first major wasn't until early in the second term, which cut the Saints' margin to 21. Ryan Smith's 4 goals in the first looked like he would once again chuck a massive bag on the hapless Hawks side, but they held him to only 1 more for the half and a goalless second half. The Saints wasted chances, and 3 goals in 3 minutes in the third quarter for Yassine Hill gave the Hawks the lead at the final change, having been up to 27 points down at one point. Sean Groenewegen, I've got no clue with that, I'm just reading it off my laptop, replaced Smith and immediately chipped in with 2 majors. Seb Welsh then had the quarter of his life. He kicked 6 goals, won in 10 minutes, that final goal being his 10th, coming with only 2 seconds left, and that final quarter bag represented pretty much the entire gap between the two sides at the end. The SANFL action also resumed on Friday night, with both matches having a moment's silence before the game to honour the passing of Barry Robran, football legend in South Australia. The sublimely skilled North Rover had passed away on the Wednesday evening at 77, and his impact on the SA footy scene is immeasurable, in addition to being a great guy by all accounts. All players wore black armbands as well, and it was a great touch, especially considering that the Victorian media had forgotten he passed away by Thursday afternoon. The first match between West Adelaide and Central Districts was a contest Barry would have been proud of. The newly minted Westies hadn't won all season, only really getting near Centrals in the first hit-out of the year. But tonight, Centrals were without their leading goal kicker Stuart Webster thanks to injury, and West had regained former Sturt man Hallam Chitty, making his own return after a long layoff. Darren Misko was also back, having missed last week's game, and his presence in the ruck was very much welcomed. The start wasn't promising, with Henry DeCure filling in well for Webster with 3 first-quarter goals, and Darren Peters' third goal of his own gapping West 9-37 early in the second. Chitty then gets inserted into the West forward line in the second and makes a difference, Westies having missed a forward with height all season. He scores 2 goals, helped by Fabio Savoya's best quarter this season, and although DeCure scores his 4th right as the second half kicks off, Chitty's able to generate chances. West unfortunately struggled to make all of them count. They were very inaccurate in front of goal, and that proved to be a decider in the end. Centrals make it tough. Chitty forced to have 2 shots on the move from open play which miss, but he and Yang Dan combined to level the scores on the 3-quarter time siren. A Chitty behind about 20 seconds into the 4th sees West get the lead for only the second moment in their history. From there, the game seesaws in a frantic encounter, which Central seem to have slightly more control over, but West continually hound them. Blood skipper Jake Billsborough, exceptional last week, was simply inspired this week. West used him occasionally up front, but he stationed himself permanently in defence in this fixture, and he provided not only a rebounding force more potent than anyone this season, but a dogged attack on the ball that saw him win more than his fair share of contests. Peters got shifted into the ruck in the last, and his fine tap work saw Centrals earn a 12-point lead late on. He'd rotated with Sean Whitbread. He himself kicked 4 goals in that last quarter. He was immense. Billsborough intercepts the next tap after that 12-point lead was established, though, and fires a pass into Dan, who narrows the lead to 6. He then starts a chain that leads to a Johnny Ferranteri shot that's punched away on the line by Jason Tippins, impressive in his first game this year. Dan gets another chance, but it's from a long range on a tight angle, and it just sails over the post for a behind. There's maybe a minute left. Central's rebound, but Billsborough again puts his body on the line, gets an interception, and then with 20 seconds left, under pressure, tries to find Dan for a shot, but narrowly misses him. The ball goes to ground, Central's ice it up, and they win by 5 points. The supreme disappointment of many who were rooting not necessarily against Centrals, but just for the underdog to get their first win. This was their best chance by far. And look, I really felt for Billsborough at the end there. You could see the pain on his face when he just missed that pass. I mean, there was no guarantee that that final shot was going in, but I did feel really bad for him because, for me, he was my player of the match. He won 3 one-on-one defensive battles and got 11 rebounds. No one else has done either of those things in any game that I've watched so far this year. A lack of disposal efficiency, which plagued the game, and West in particular, cost him ranking points, the highest sum from the game going to Sean Whitbread, who was, of course, switched forward in that last term, and those 4 goals were absolutely massive, which went with his game tallies of 42 touches, 29 marks, and 4 assists. But this is the best West have looked by far. Chitty going a long way toward that as well, and I get the feeling their first win will be coming sooner rather than later. Norwood then met the mighty Woodville West Torrens. The last fixture had resulted in a forfeit due to low numbers for the Eagles, but this was hoped to be a real contest. Norwood had considered themselves a chance, but their plan to blanket supremely talented superstar forward Trevor Jarrett had two key flaws. The first being the absence of Chris Simpson, my current most valuable player in the league after minor surgery. I say absence, Chris was of course there at the ground helping Norwood out in any way he could, even functioning as the water boy. The second flaw in the plan was, well, Trevor Jarrett. His movement is honestly insane. 1 second he's rolling forward, the next he's rolled around his marker backwards, then he's facing forward again and shooting off at full speed. This is all without any sort of speed, acceleration or momentum change. He's just got constant movement no matter which direction he's facing. He's incredible. Plus he's got a shot that doesn't seem to be limited by range or angle. If Wheelchair SANFL had a video game, he'd be a 99 overall. He scored 5 goals in the first term, the entirety of the Eagles' majors, and although he had 8 by half-time, Norwood was still within 26 points, by far the closest gap at that stage of any of the teams to have faced Eagles this season. And Norwood may have been closer yet, if not for Rick Leonard, star of last week's record-shattering win, getting a flat tyre. Brand new tubes as well, just rotten luck, and without a spare, Norwood's tallest player was out of the game against probably the tallest team on average in the league. Certainly didn't help. And yeah, it kind of all fell apart from there. Norwood were outscored 2-31 in the third term as their forward structure struggled, with the Eagles sort of abandoning the mark to double team their opponents. I don't know if that's legal or not, I was just writing down stats, but that was something that I sort of noticed. They were really clever in their ability to double team the danger forward in Jamie Smythe. Darren Schutz in his return game tried his hardest to Darren Schutz down star Eagles midfielder Adam Roque in the ruck, which I feel that he did, but Roque's all-around the ground game would have been too much for anyone. He saw the ball 49 times, 13 of those were inside, well not inside 50s, but in forward third attacking entries, with 10 of those being goal assists. Jarrett ended up with 14 goals for the day as the final term turned into a bit of a wash. Stephen Edge didn't have his best day in front of goal, but still saw plenty of it. Suraj Habib again had a tidy defensive outing, and Wayne Hale's first match of the season was a fair showing against his old side. Really, all of the 5 players the Eagles used didn't really put a foot wrong. The Eagles were just so much cleaner with the ball all day, pressuring Norwood when they were on the ball whilst having plenty of uncontested ball for themselves, and that sort of proved the difference. There were positive signs for the Redlegs. They did have the Eagles worried in that first half, which was highly competitive. Jamie Smythe is absolutely still the big forward they badly needed, but just didn't get enough chances. The defence was solid, with 18 rebounds being more than Centrals and West had combined against the same opposition, and young Holly Gould from the development team again got on the field at the end and made a nice contribution. Considering that they had their best defender and best midfielder out by the halfway mark of the game, it was hardly a poor showing. So, to round it up, here's my SANFL Team of the Week. Trevor Jarrett and Suraj Habib continue their form, making every Team of the Week I've made so far, keeping in mind I haven't gone back and done stats for round 1. Adam Roque makes the midfield spot to no one's surprise. Sean Whitbread lines up as a forward, even though he only played that position for 10 minutes. And my boy, Jake Billsborough, is down back with the most ranking points of any defender in any game all year. That was honestly such a good moment when I ran through all those numbers and a big one spat out at the end there. He deserved that. What a game he's had. He's the sort of player you need 2 of, really. You really wish you had 2 of him, one up front, one down back. Can't speak highly enough of the way he goes about his business. The 3 bench spots go to West's Yang Dan and Central's men Darren Peters and James Barker, who was stoic down in defence. Jarrett now moves into the highest scoring player position, according to my records, whilst Norwood fall below Centrals on the ladder, which sets up a really enthralling battle, well, either today or tomorrow, depending on when I can get this done by. This one's been a bit rushed, and sorry for that, hoping that won't happen again. Anyway, I'm off to probably go straight down to the wheelchair games on this Friday night. That video will come out a lot sooner than this one did. Thank you all so much for watching. Get down to your local wheelchair games. It's really great sport, free entry for I think pretty much every league. It's good stuff. Get down there and I'll see you soon.